Okay, so I think we would all agree that this is evolution, yes? We got this shrewy-looking thing here, which is the ancestor of this wolfy-looking thing here.
Are canines part wolf?
Canids is the larger family of things that are in the family Canis, and that includes wolves, coyotes, dogs, foxes. So canines, if you mean dogs, wolves are their ancestor species. Primitive wolves are their ancestor species.
They're kind of like our ancestors.
Are monkey-like organisms, yeah. And this is the ancestor of all mammals. So, this shrewy thing is the ancestor, no, not your cousin, your grandma, is the ancestor of this wolfy thing, and this wolfy thing is the ancestor of these actual wolves. And who here has gone home and let the descendant of these wolfy things lick their face?
Ew, no.
Ew, don't let them lick your face because they lick their butt. But anyway, that's just a change. You should be writing stuff down. That's just a change in the distribution of traits. Was it in here that we talked about round muzzles versus pointy muzzles?
No.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, who here has seen a dog?
Me.
Okay. We can use this sort of generic dog here as an example, this cute little stray dog from the desert Southwest. Wolf muzzles and skulls tend to be more elongated than domestic dogs. Domestic dogs tend to have higher domes on their head. They tend to have shorter muzzles. They tend to have more rounded features. All of those are characteristics. Coyotes and wolves are both pretty pointy. Dogs are less pointy than either coyotes or wolves. That's a trait. Now, there are a whole bunch of other traits that differentiate dogs from wolves. It's not just the roundness of their features or the length of their snout. For one thing, there are some behavioral traits. For another thing, do you know about jaw strength in dogs versus wolves? Something like 800 times the jaw clamp force. Somebody can fact check me on that. It's a big number. I don't remember what it is. I'm looking at you, House. Difference in bite force between wolves and dogs, it's enormous.
Which one has more?
Which do you think? Which one depends for its survival on killing things by ripping out their throats? It ain't Fido. Fido's going to eat just fine. Now, you may have a dog who's got a good prey instinct. I have a dog who kills squirrels. She's a squirrel killer. But could Jojo, my big, fluffy, happy, sweet dog who kills squirrels, take down a moose? Probably not. She's probably not capable of it. She probably doesn't have the jaw strength for it. She doesn't have the stamina for it. She's not depending on it because she's going to get kibble at the end of the day.
That's impressive, actually, getting squirrels.
It is. She's pretty good. But she still couldn't take down a moose. She couldn't take down a deer. She'd try. She couldn't do it. There are differences in characteristics that differentiate that dog from its wolf ancestors. There are differences in characteristics that differentiate that wolf from its canid, generic canid, primitive canid ancestors. So what we're talking about, hey, guess what, is a shift in distribution of a bunch of traits. It's not just one trait. It's a whole cluster of traits that we're seeing change over many generations that leads us from something that looks pretty unlike something else over a long enough period of time to something that looks like what we see today. So we did this yesterday, that most traits are distributed in a normal distribution. Sometimes we have this. The environment favors one version of a trait over another. So for early dogs, now dogs are a sketchy example because a lot of what we see in modern dogs is artificial selection. We picked who got to breed. We bred dogs that we wanted to have puppies. But the very first dogs got a survival advantage by hanging out near humans. What's their survival advantage? To following human camps around. We're talking about primitive hunter-gatherer camps. So these would be Native Americans, these would be tribal groups in Europe, these would be tribal groups, and actually domestication of dogs probably happened on multiple continents. What's the advantage to following a bunch of human primitive hunters around?
They can protect.
Cave people.
They could get food.
Oh, yeah. Anybody's dog eat the garbage? Dear God. We have taken to putting weights on the garbage can in the kitchen because she figured out how to use the foot pedal.
What?
Oh, she's so smart. My dog figured out how to use the foot pedal on the kitchen garbage can. Because dogs are fantastic scavengers. Oh, look at these human hunters. Oh, look, they leave juicy, delicious bones around. Ooh, sometimes when they kill stuff, they leave the guts in a big pile. It's a fantastic advantage. It is free calories.
Woo!
Woo!
Yeah.
Sounds like a party. Now I'm quoting, never mind, I'm quoting a student. Okay. It does. It's free food. That is a huge survival advantage. Do you know what life from a biological perspective is about?
No, I don't.
Not dying and reproducing. That's it.
Nice.
Sex and not dying. From a biological perspective, that's what moves a species forward. Guess what? Those early canids, those wolfy dogs, and then those wolves, found that by following humans around, by hanging out close to humans, by looking cute, by being kind of friendly, they could get food. I'll trade my dignity for calories. I mean, that's essentially what they've done. They've traded their independence and their dignity for calories. It was a pretty good trade. It was a pretty good trade. It was a very good trade. Because the environment favored the shifting of some characteristic, the shifting of distribution of characteristics. It controls the characteristics that we see in a species. Your genes and the environment.
Beat me to it.
Okay, the genes and the environment. Now, here's the thing. Underlying those characteristics are genes. Ah, shoot. Well, gene frequency is what percentage of a population carries a gene for a particular trait. So if we went back 20,000 years and we looked at wolves and the animals that would become dogs, we would find in one population a higher frequency of some genes. There are actually genes that code in dogs, and there are some fascinating articles out there. There are genes that code for aggression, where a combination of genes makes a much more aggressive dog. There are genes that code for sociability and play behavior into adulthood. We would find higher concentrations of those social, playful genes and lower percentages of those aggressive genes in the animals who end up becoming dogs. When we look at gene frequency, we look at a chart like this. And you're going to see these charts again and again and again. These numbers you'll notice are 1 and 0. And what this really means is 0%, 100%. So what we're saying for any gene, let's pick a magical imaginary gene right here, that purple dot. It could be a gene for spotted coats. Spotted coats in cheetahs, spotted coats in rabbits, spotted coats in dogs. It could be a gene for anything. If 50% of the population is carrying that gene, depending on whether it's dominant or recessive, we're going to see some percentage of the population that has that trait. Oh, that's our this thing. So where we say, like, you know, all black coat, all white coat, 50% spotted. Depending on the percentage of the population that has that gene, if this percentage goes up, maybe our mode switches, it shifts down. if this percentage goes down, maybe our mode switches this way. Those traits are controlled by genes. So, who here has heard about the python problem in Florida? So these are Florida pythons. So you know that they're a problem. You know that there are these, snake hunters. I mean, that is a python eating an alligator. Your dog? Tasty snack. They eat deer. They can eat, they'll eat anything. Are we safe in Ohio? Why or why not?
Yes, because they don't live around here.
Why not? Why don't they live around here?
Well,
Because
they didn't live in Florida.
They like hot weather better. They didn't live in Florida.
they're cold-blooded.
They're cold-blooded. Do we have... Okay, good. You guys have got some interesting claims here.
For right now.
Oh, interesting. Interesting statement, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones.
Interesting statement for now. So, why... So, somebody said they like hot weather... They like hot weather better. So why do they like hot weather better? Is it a matter of liking it?
Might need it.
They might need it. What's that thing where all living things have to control their internal conditions? What is that called? No. Homeostasis.
That's what I said.
Homeostasis. What do you have to control? What are you controlling right now?
Heat and temperature.
Temperature and water balance. Yeah, that's it. How are you controlling your temperature right now? Some of us have put on blankets.
Clothes.
Okay, we put on clothes. You also have, internal mechanisms. If you get cold enough, you'll start to shiver.
Yeah.
Because your muscles will involuntarily spasm to keep you warmer. If you get really hot, what do? It's not voluntary. You sweat so that the water evaporating off your skin pulls heat away from you. You have a mechanism to control this. Do snakes have mechanisms to control their body temperature? No, they're cold-blooded.
They gotta lay in the
Moser,
sun.
I said they were cold-blooded. Yeah, they gotta lay in the sun. They can't survive getting too cold. Too cold, they freeze. Too hot, they bake. But do we have snakes here?
Yes.
Yeah. What do our snakes do in the winter?
Hibernate.
They go dormant. They go underground. I used to live in an old farmhouse, and every winter I would get an influx of little garter snakes that would come in through the stone walls of the basement. I thought it was cool.
I'd be getting like a mouse trap.
Oh, I love snakes. I think they're adorable. So I was fine. No, I don't love that. I love little old garter snakes and milk snakes and corn snakes that live around here. I love our native snakes. I have no interest in pythons. So we have snakes that live here, and they have adapted ways to survive our winter. Are we safe in Ohio from pythons? Interesting statement,
At
Ms.
this time
Simons.
of year we are.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. There is an article for you. Now, we'll talk about annotations a little bit more when we do our private conferences, which we are going to start today and run into tomorrow. Fantastic article that I saw on Google News last night. And, oh my gosh, I got to do something with this. About Florida pythons, genes, and evolution. So, here's the assignment that you're going to have, and you'll get started on it today, and I'll start on conferences today. And here's how this is going to run. You're going to work on annotating. The article, if it's not posted already, I just have to hit a button and it'll post. You are going to annotate and close read. Now, let me tell you something about annotations. The grades are still not in for that last annotation you did, and here's why. Because at least half of them are utter garbage. Where what you're saying is what the article says isn't even what the article says. Or it's clear that somebody did such a fast, sloppy job I can't even read the words they wrote.
It's hard to write on the iPad.
It is. And you can get better, and you can also, I had one person in the other class who said, look, my handwriting is so bad. Can I type it in notes, screenshot it, and put it in? Yeah, you can do that. If you absolutely cannot make comprehensible sense writing on the iPad, then you can do that. Though there is a different connection between your hand and your brain when you handwrite something versus when you type it. But, so on the annotation that you're going to do with this article, it is a complicated article. It's got some pretty high-level language in it. But you can do it. You're getting tools to do it so that you can move forward and do more of these. Basically, I got so fed up and burned out grading that last set of annotations. Some of them were okay. Some of them were, some of them were good. Some of them were okay. And a whole lot of them were just kind of junk. And so I got to the point, it had been 20 points, and I thought, I can't even do 20 points. Like, how do I even break down 20 points on this? So I dropped it, I think, to like 5 points, and if it's junk, you're going to get like a point out of 5, because we need to talk more about this. This is a tool that we need to get better at using, and we're going to talk about that. And when we conference, we're going to look at your tests, and we're also going to look at your annotations, and I'm going to see if I feel like you need a lot of work on that or not. A few of you don't really need a lot of work. You just need, like, tweak it. But the goal is that you can intelligently discuss this article when you're done. So, remember, I have these, if you need them, as a refresher. The article on Florida pythons is there. You're going to annotate it. And while you're working on that today and tomorrow, I'll be pulling people for individual conferences. I will put the radio on, and you get to work.